Tucker Carlson and Aaron Rodgers completely expose mainstream media for upping their usage of buzzwords such as racism and racist for dishonest reasons, such as financial issues and political issues. We also have opinions on this topic from Joe Rogan and Elon Musk, so you won't want to miss out. This is something that will really open your eyes to what's going on with mainstream media, so buckle up. In an interview with Tucker Carlson and Aaron Rodgers, they went into how mainstream media journals were pushing certain narratives to cover up something a lot deeper. Check this out.
The left used to be a party of Occupy Wall Street and free speech and rights for everybody. Now they're the ones beating the drums on the war machine and censorship and obedience.
They're not criticizing Wall Street too much, I notice.
Yeah.
There was a fascinating study, a very revealing study, that showed that at the height of Occupy Wall Street, the New York Times torqued up its coverage of racism. So the word racist, racism, white supremacy went up hundreds of percent in the New York Times. You can check all this on their database. During Occupy Wall Street, it was almost like somebody decided it would be better to be at war with each other than to be asking questions about our financial system.
Now, this is something I couldn't agree with more. I actually made a video about this last month where we looked into the exact data set that Tucker Carlson is talking about in this video. And lucky for us, there has been a lot more data that has been added that we're gonna take a look at. So let's just dive right into it. Now, we all know Elon Musk is one of the biggest proponents of free speech today. I mean, he literally bought up $1 billion company just to defend free speech. Elon's got my respect for that. Nevertheless, Elon has commented on this exact thing that Tucker and Aaron are talking about. He posted this graph to his X account, and above it, he said, "This graph illustrates the woke mind virus taking over legacy media. Same happened with online media and the education system. Then it spread to other countries. Infection rate, almost 100%. But now, it will die." And then under that, as you guys can see, he posted this staggering graph. Now, as we can see, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, all these mainstream journals, these huge mainstream journals, are pushing the words racist, racists, racism a ton. And I mean a ton. As we can see, starting in roughly 2012, they started pushing these words hard. For instance, the Los Angeles Times pushed it 756% more in the span of 2010 to 2020. And all these other journals followed pretty closely. I mean, this is absolutely staggering. Nevertheless, right after that, Elon reposted another graph, which is this one right on the screen. This one is Americans' trust in media over the years. Now we can see starting roughly in 2000, it was around 55% trust of the mainstream media. And nowadays it's 32%. So it's roughly down 23-ish% since 2000, which honestly, I think the scarier part is how 32% of people still trust legacy media at all. Now, this is the exact article and data sets that Tucker and Aaron were talking about before. It's by tabletmag.com and it's titled, "How the Media Led to the Great Racial Awakening." Right under it says, years before Trump's election, the media dramatically increased coverage of racism and embraced new theories of racial consciousness that set the stage for the latest unrest. I highly recommend you guys look deeper into this because this article is not small. It goes on forever. Now, here's another graph I wanted to quickly show you guys. It says in 2011, just 35% of white liberals thought racism in the United States was, in quotes, a big problem, according to national polling. By 2015, this figure had ballooned to 61% and further still to 77% in 2017. Now, in addition to that, this one I think is a bit more informative of what's going on. It says in December 2006, 45% of white Democrats and 41% of white Republicans reported they knew someone they considered racist. By June of 2015, this figure increased to 64% among white Democrats, while remaining at a steady 41% among white Republicans. I feel like this graph shows the most information of what's going on because it's the white Democrats pushing this narrative the most, which is quite interesting to me. As you guys can see, this goes on forever and there is so much data on what is going on. I highly recommend you guys check this out. Now, I know you all love Joe Rogan. So let's take a look at what he had to say about all this wokeness and legacy media stuff going on.
Woke is clearly a cult. It's a mind virus. And I think that it's so trite to call it that now. It's like whatever this thing is, this leftism, this Marxist sort of ideology that's waving its flag and indoctrinating people in this country, it's very similar to all kinds of religions. It's very similar to fundamentalist religions that have always existed, in that everybody has to believe very specific things and you can't differ. You can't differ from the doctrine.
I feel like Joe Rogan always says pretty much what is on my mind, very spot on. And with what he said here, I completely agree. I didn't disagree with anything he said, and I think it's all very accurate. So with that all being said, I want to leave you guys with a quote from Sir David Attenborough. The quote said, "If you collect 100 black ants and 100 fire ants and put them in a glass jar, nothing will happen. But if you take the jar, shake it violently, and leave it on the table, the ants will start killing each other. Red believes that black is the enemy, while black believes that red is the enemy, when the real enemy is the person who shook the jar. The same is true in society, men versus women, black versus white, faith versus science, young versus old, etc. Before we fight each other, we must ask ourselves, who shook the jar?" Now, I think this quote describes everything that's going on today in the mainstream media absolutely perfectly. We're all constantly being split into two groups, and we're all just fighting each other and not looking at who's shaking the jar. And with all the graphs we just showed, I hope everyone watching this video has a good idea of who is actually shaking the jar and constantly putting these two groups against each other. So if you took anything away from today's video, it should be that mainstream media is constantly dividing people in two groups and having them fight each other, when what we should be looking at is the mainstream media machine actually shaking the jar. So with that all being said, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, as it helps out the channel a ton. And as always, let me know your thoughts on this topic down below. This one goes way, way deeper, and I would love to get into it on a future date. So if you guys want to see that, let me know. So with that all being said, thank you all so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.